Men. What's the most emotionally hurt you've been in your life? Mom called me 20 minutes before she committed suicide to ask me to remember all the good times we had together. She told me it just wasn't enough anymore to hold on anymore. I was 22. Left me emotionally withdrawn, I think forever. Wow. I'm speechless. I'm so sorry to hear this. Probably when my cousin died at 17 during my senior year. He had a brain hemorrhage and no one expected it. He was only a year younger than me and we went to the same school. He lived down the street from me and we used to walk to school together all the time. I still miss him to this day. Yeah, it's crazy how people can just drop dead with no signs whatsoever. When my doctor told me that I had cancer, I spent 1 month in agony, suffering silently, only to be told by a specialist that it wasn't. Forced me to rethink things. In a way, it prepared me for my Parkinson diagnosis. I'll learn to live my life to the fullest. Damn. What a roller coaster. Open bracket. Yep. Getting used to bad news. But I can't let it get to me. My sister died of a rare disease. That was #1 my superstitious parents blaming me for it because they think my bad karma caused it. I was a delinquent kid. That was a distant #2. Your parents are wrong. Yes. They are very wrong. Wow, SMH. My brother committed suicide 3 months ago. That easily takes the cake. That's awful. Really sorry to hear that, and sorry you have to go through it. Last year this girl I had dated on and off for 2 years suddenly accused me of raping her one night when she was drunk. It wasn't true, but she was adamant. 1 week later she had reported it to ours at my work and the police. Then followed half a year of investigations into her baseless accusations and into all the evidence I could present. My evidence was chat logs and such, while her stories changed dramatically between each time she told them. During the investigation I lost my job and most of my friends and colleagues since they got convinced by her stories. I got a different job just a week before all of the investigations and cases were dropped since I had been able to prove my innocence. I thought that was it, but she then managed to spread the same accusations to my new job, and the next one, and so on. Currently I've lost 4 positions, and most of my social life. During the past year due to this woman, who I had a semi-serious relationship with, and before you ask, my country does not have laws against false accusations. It's been quite turbulent emotionally to be honest. You could sue her for slander. Ordinarily I wouldn't encourage over litigiousness, but if she wants to be that way, and you can definitely prove that you didn't do it, and the harm she did to your life, you can ruin her life, and get a court injunction banning her from ever making the claim again. Not as severe as some people here, but something that really dug into me. I was in a very toxic relationship, one where I was constantly verbally and sometimes physically abused. Well, one time we went to see her mom. And her mom wanted to talk to me. So I sat down with her in their living room and she looks me dead in the eyes and tells me that I have no value whatsoever. As a human being you are worthless. It broke me. It was so nonchalant and cruel at the same time. You have infinite value, my brother. No you. Haha, thank you. Wife. At the time. Never came home. No note. Letter. Text. Nothing gone. Call the police, but they can't do anything. Find her at her work the next day. I don't love you is all she said. She moved in with someone else. Never had a single fight or disagreement. Ghosting someone like this as an adult is genuinely bordering on psychotic behavior. It has to be the strangest and most concerning way of handling a scenario that almost demands communication. In case of the small chance you haven't heard this yet, you dodged a ref nuclear warhead. Be thankful that the trash sometimes really does take itself out. IDK if he really dodged it considering the emotional attachment. Dodge it in the very real sense it didn't last even longer with kids and more investment before detonating. Okay, so I grew up poor, unpopular, isolated, and quite socially awkward. When I was 26 I married a beautiful woman, second wife. First was a sociopath that fucked me up badly. She was from what appeared to be a good family. We both had careers. We had 2 beautiful kids, a house, the whole domestic bliss thing. I got custody of my first child and life seemed perfect to me. I was in a place I'd never thought I'd be. I was even getting off my antidepressants. But just when I thought I was blessed, having a life I'd never thought I'd have, she cheats on me and asks for a divorce. I had no idea she was unhappy. She didn't communicate that we were in trouble. My mental state and her sabotage caused me to lose my career, have to move back home with my son, and lose many other special possessions. She spent the next few years breaking all her promises and denying me access to our kids. Going from cloud 9 to rock bottom in like 3 months rocked me. It broke me so badly that I was incapable of love for the better part of a decade. I never did anyone dirty, but I couldn't let anyone in either. In fairness to her, I did have quite a few issues from my first failed marriage, and wasn't the husband I should have been. She has her own issues, and no matter what it never would have worked out. But just because I deserved the divorce, not to get cheated on and sabotaged, almost nobody does, doesn't mean it can't hurt or destroy me. Kudos to owning your own faults. Relationships and their dynamics are difficult. I hope you find happiness and love in your life journey. When my wife died. Soul crushing. I'm sorry for your loss. Telling my parents to choose between the booze or a relationship with me, and not liking the answer. I never even bothered to ask, because I know what the answer would be. Haven't talked to my dad or stepmom since before the pandemic for this very reason. I don't ask either. Heartbreak. First woman I ever loved left me, left it open and lingering and got back with her ex. I was devastated for months. Then that ended and she called me like 3 days after and we got back together. Happened again. Just a different guy. I left this time though. Moving on. Much easier this time around but not easy at all. Nothing compared to some of you in here. I wish you all the best. Never belittle your pain, because others have had it worse. Your struggles hurt just as much as others, and the fact that you have the empathy to know that others hurt as well is a noble quality. I hope you're doing better. When I found out my girlfriend was married. Fuck. Sorry dude. I had a FWB I found out was married last year. Turns out her apartment was her secret F shack. I had something similar to this about 4 years ago. I hooked up with this woman sort of local to me, UK, and I arranged a date at a nice restaurant and she ghosted me on the day of the date, which was to be expected. She seemed like she was out of my league, as I guess some would say. Then 2 weeks later she reappeared and apologized profusely for letting me down. She said she was super nervous because she thought I was awesome and I was exactly what she wanted from a partner, and as her way of apologizing she said she would like me to come over to her place for dinner and a movie, and I agreed because I figured what's the worst that could happen. So we meet up for dinner. We start watching a movie, Shutter Island. She decides to go upstairs to get changed and comes down in this lassie red see-through negligee, and my jaw hit the ground. Things got a little steamy and we ended up upstairs in the spare bedroom, and as we were at it a man walks in and said he wants to join in. This man was her husband of 15 years. This house I was in was where they would bring someone they wanted to be a third under false pretenses. I told him to get stuffed. He could stand in the corner or jack one out. He did, and I carried on giving his missus one. Then proceeded to stay there for 2 more days and nights, and we did the same thing every day. I would later find out this was their way of spicing up their relationship, and that they also had a 13-year-old son together, and that this happened because he was away on a camping trip with a local scouts group. Kinda messed up but also hilarious at the same time. April 24th, 2011. Came home to an empty apartment. And when I mean empty, it only had some of my belongings in it. My 4-year-old daughter, my 11-year-old son and my wife were gone, as well as clothing and furniture. I had been abandoned. She took the car, the food stamps card, cleared out the bank account, and changed her status to single on Facebook. That's when I found out she had been planning it for months, and people either were my friends had been in my home helping her pack up. That day really sucked. You still cool with the kids? Oh yeah. Neither of them want anything to do with her. They are both autistic and were at ground zero for most of the worst of what she was doing. They remember most of it. Probably right before / during my suicide attempt 9 years ago. My ex-wife used my aspects of my military experiences in Iraq that she knew absolutely haunted me to my core against me in an argument. She called me a coward and a killer, and I proceeded to grab a razor blade and slash my wrists until I could hold the blade anymore and spray my blood all over her. Seriously. F her. F her. Glad you are still with us. Was law abiding. Trained at police academy. Never got in trouble with police till I was 45. My partner's little sister, who was a minor and had been in and out of hospital since she 10 for a congenital condition, got sexually assaulted by her ex for refusing to have sex with him. Then a week later he lured her to a park and his friends were waiting and raped her. When she went to police they didn't really care. Told her if they arrest him and he says she ever assaulted him, she would also be arrested for assault, so she declined to continue. Then he started a Facebook texting harassment campaign. Anyway, one day me and my partner and her sister were shopping and we saw this guy. My partner started talking to him and he called her a S, so I separated them non-violently. Some of his friends ran over, pulled a knife and threatened to kill me, so I asked security to call cops. Got arrested by a Pisho female cop. Held for 6 hours without charge. Denied lawyer. When they found out thief up the CCTV mysteriously vanished, which would have proved my innocence. They wrote a false confession for me. Perjured themselves multiple times. The judge was super cop friendly, and so I had 2 prosecutors. Lost my job. Got convicted. Appealed. Took 2 years of court and financially ruined me. Before that I believed in the justice system. It was a huge shock to realize they're corrupt, and they refused to investigate the assaults against the minor until after conviction because it would have harmed their case against me. If it's never happened to you, maybe you won't understand how it FKS with you emotionally, but it's the worst feeling knowing you were doing the right thing and your country is set on betraying and destroying you. My little brother told me I should just go live with dad because nobody really wants you here. When my parents were getting divorced, my mom had a very slight but evil smirk on her face and was sitting right next to him when he said it. She just sat there quietly, as if she agreed with him, and he spoke for both of them. I have childhood photos of my older brother literally choking me as an infant. When we were growing up I was always known as his stupid little brother and was bullied. Had my toys broken. And yes, like that. As an adult. To no surprise. He is a ref dickhead towards me and will trash talk me to anyone who will listen. Funny thing, he calls me the embarrassment of the family, yet I have multiple college degrees, have advanced and high up in my career, have a healthy group of close friends, and have passed him up in just about every aspect in life. He flunked out of college after 1 year, makes poor financial decisions, lies on his resume about having 3 college degrees, fights and feuds with his neighbors. Has maybe 1 friend, and bounces from job to job. He is still my mom's favorite, and she makes excuses for him. He is in his 40s too. The death of my sister. After 5 years working an extremely toxic workplace, she finally quit her job. She had lost 75 pounds and the previous year she was going to take 6 months to do some study to better prepare her for the job that she had been promised in a great local company. That was the Friday. On Monday night she died in her sleep. She was only 51. That was 10 years ago. I'm tearing up writing this. What made it worse was that I had planned to ring her on Saturday. Because of time zone differences, there was kind of a narrow window where I could ring her. I was doing something stupid like playing Tetris on the computer waiting for when she would be awake. Suddenly the time got away from me and it was too late to ring. I said, oh well, I'll ring her next weekend, and then I couldn't. So sorry to hear this. And thank you for posting it. I had only gotten out of a call with my sister 10 minutes ago. I need to call her again and make her laugh for a second. I filed for divorce today, ending a 30-year marriage. I know that had to be hard. While I'm over here in a 3rd marriage. The first husband was my sister. The second husband was a serial cheater. And the 3rd husband is verbally abusive, rarely shows affection, and has been caught cheating multiple times. I absolutely want someone to stay with me for that long. She's over there throwing away her marriage for one that didn't mind committing adultery and willing to throw away someone who through good and bad stayed with her. Some women just don't understand how hard it is to find a man that is willing to stay in a relationship that long. That's a dark path I don't want to take y'all down. But let's just say it takes some S to convince a 12-year-old boy that he's better off on his own, living on the streets. How are you doing now? Getting cheated on by the first person I've ever trusted. Oof. Time to bring that up in therapy, I guess. Haha. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. My wife of 15 years infidelity. The rage and disgust my father habitually showed toward me. Seriously. F him. He is a coward and a loser. I was a little F-boy. Holding my dead husky puppy in my arms at the vet. No matter how prepared you might think you are, death will always wipe the floor right out from underneath you. This one got me. Pets are family. Lots of people I once knew weaponized my mental health against me. They knew I was at my lowest, rock bottom. They decided that it was a great idea to throw it back in my face, so to speak. This included my girlfriend. It messed me up pretty bad. I'm still struggling to recover. I relate to that. Most of my immediate family were happy to see me finally struggling instead of achieving my goals when I got PTSD. And then later in life I had it be, and they used it as an opportunity to manipulate and toy with me. I asked them to read a short handbook about what I was going through so that they would stop doing things that would worsen my recovery, and they just flat out refused. After a short period of time trying to get back on my feet while living at home, I offered to pitch in what money I had. They took it all and then said I couldn't live there or they'd call the cops. Between them picking fights with me, sabotaging me in my workplace, and treating me like garbage, it was an incredibly stressful experience. That is the exact opposite of the environment you want to be in while recovering from it. I'm sure it made my quality of life and mental state much worse today. After I was kicked to the curb, I lived in a shed for a few months and then found the first place I could to rent. Way out of my budget, and I didn't have anything anyway, so I paid about all of my income for rent. Now I'm just putting one foot in front of the other, and most of my immediate family is dead to me. I forgive them, and we are on friendly terms. But those monsters will never be a part of my life again. Especially not my parents or my brother closest in age to me. My ex left me while she was pregnant, and we were planning our wedding. For a guy that looked and acted like me, but would do cocaine with her where I wouldn't. She then had an abortion and spent a year branding me as an abuser. Then when I tried to move on with my life with someone else, she told me she was lying about all of it to make everyone be on her side. Told me she wished she hadn't gotten the abortion, and that I should stop the progress I was trying to make to work on things with her. These past 2 months have been pretty rough. Got out of a relationship 2 months ago with someone who I really loved, and been dealing with that. My rock was my cat, and she really helped a lot. But a few days ago she passed away very suddenly. The breakup was rough, but nothing compared to losing that cat. Can't say about the cat. If I had one, I'd probably have felt you. But the relationship thingy hurts like anything. It's the shittiest feeling ever. And even more so after repenting for your mistakes, making up for them, and then doing more. The unequal reciprocation hurts. The feeling of the other person feeling entitled to surety sounds like bullshit. But you'll get through this, buddy. Power to you. I caught my ex-wife in bed with one of my ex-friends.